Welcome to the deep dive. Moses Babatope, co-founder of West Africa's largest cinema chain, is our guest today on the deep dive, brought to you by Ifituri and produced by Explore Nollywood and Streamline Media. Welcome, Moses.
Thank you very much, Ifituri. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. So, Moses, like I said, largest cinema chain in West Africa. He's going to be talking to us about the business. Now, this is, if you are listening, if you are watching, you need to pay attention to Moses. Moses is the wealth of experience as it relates to cinema and the business of creating movies. So, we have started this conversation. I've known you for a while now. 5 years ago, we sat together. We were talking about the business. We were talking about the Nigerian film industry, what needs to be done to improve film distribution and the cinema culture. And I know a number of things have happened in that 5 years, but I want you to tell us how it has been, what has developed, what has changed between that time.
Fantastic. It's great to be here, and hello to the audiences at home and the followers of this great work you've done.
Thank you.
It's also lovely to know that, half a decade on, you're at it. Yeah,
oh
so really good.
I have great people to thank for that.
Yeah, really great stuff. I think the question is so timely.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because it's one of those questions that you can really enumerate a number of positives that have happened in the industry in that time, despite the setback we've had, in the last 2-3 years with COVID. One of the biggest wins for us, particularly in the cinema sector, is that between 2017 and 2019 particularly, there was almost like a doubling of cinema locations and a doubling of cinema screens.
Yes.
That has been a big one. And, box office has moved from, I think, somewhere around the 4 billion mark to 6.4 billion as of 2019.
Wow.
It took a big hit in 2020 because of COVID.
Yeah.
But as of 2021, it was back to 5 billion. So the recovery already, if you look at 5 billion versus 6.4, China is really good. So we've seen improvements in that. Another big area, in 2017, we didn't have the global box office measuring platform, ComScore, tracking our box office. One thing, and I keep saying that we cannot lose sight of, is that the advent or the emergence of ComScore in our markets literally changed a lot of things.
So let me just quickly break.
Yes.
Our market, like Nigeria
and indeed West Africa, but Nigeria specifically, was the emergence of a box office measuring platform.
Yes.
A global standard.
Awesome.
Something that people could validate our numbers.
Awesome.
For the first time in a while. It put us on the map. It said there was a territory that needed to be looked at, a territory that needed to be taken seriously, a frontier market that with the right kind of investment could make a real impact in terms of global, cinema box office.
Awesome.
I think that's a major development, major highlight. And you've seen, shortly after that, with those numbers coming through, Netflix really deepened their investment in 2019. Today, we're now talking about Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah, coming.
And I think very soon, as just looking at Disney's strategy,
Apple is coming ahead as well.
Yeah, Disney Plus, and we're hearing things about Paramount Plus, and you can see now DSTV has morphed into Showmax. So I think that's the one singular achievement that people underplay, but it is also something that is a major credit to the industry. One last big development that also happened was the emergence of a trade association. And if here's the point, it's called the Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria.
Okay.
It was established in 2018. It is the only cinema trade association in the whole of Africa.
Wow.
And that is with a South African territory that is more mature, that is more bankable, that has existed longer than Nigeria. We've been able to achieve a trade association that represents the interests of all cinemas in the country. So not only are we saying we're transparent and accountable for box office numbers, we also have, a proper association and that looks after the interest and ensure the standardization of cinema business in the territory. So really excited about those developments.
In fact, I'm excited with you. The first thing when you said, we have something that will track our box office, I was like, that means people can come to Nigeria to have their premieres.
Correct.
They don't need to do it only in London, Asia, and all. They can come to Nigeria and have their premieres. The trade association, again, for the betterment, for the maintenance, for the sustenance of cinema.
Yes.
So for you people that don't know, there's a lot to gain. There's a lot of work even within the back end as it relates to creating movies. And people shouldn't look at only, I want to be in the movie, I want to do this, I want to executive produce, which is also good. But the fact that there is a whole chain happening at the back that you can get involved in, and you can literally go to school to be to work at that back end.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. As in, I'm blown.
And I should also add that, the quality of filmmaking has really gotten better over those years. And the performance of Nollywood films in the box office versus Hollywood films. A lot of international content executives track that performance.
Oh, wow.
So it's gone from the lows of 5% in 2014, 2013, to as high as 35%, in I believe it was 2017, and has even higher in 2020 and 2021, where we got to 45%. It's going to come down a bit this year because Hollywood has really rebounded. But COVID gave us an opportunity to entrench cinema going culture for our local titles.
Oh, wow. Yes. So in my mind's eye, and when I just hear this, that means you can literally, and I'm saying it literally, I'm breaking it down, you can literally put an American big budget, I wouldn't say big budget movie next to a Nigerian movie, and that Nigerian movie will be doing better than the American movie.
No, if it's already in a number of cinemas across the country, that is the norm. Okay. So if you go to places like Benin, if you go to places like, Oshogbo, or Akure, it's the Nigerian films that top the charts. Yeah, if they compile their top 10 for the year, the Nigerian films will be in the top 3.
Again, you know what is coming to my mind?
Yes,
that means a Brad Pitt can want to act with maybe Blossom or Alex or any. Who knows?
We're seeing it happening, and look, we're about to release a great film coming up, and no advertorial for them. It's Woman King that stars a Nigerian actor alongside Viola Davis. So it's already happening.
I've seen that.
It's already happening. And we're going to see more of that.
Okay.
We're going to see it on account of...
I'm looking forward to that private viewing. Myself and Valentine is looking forward to that private viewing. Absolutely. We need to see Viola Davis coming through. If she's coming through.
We're trying to see whether we can pull her. It's looking very unlikely. By the way, the premiere is next weekend, and I'll get you invites for that.
Okay, awesome. So I like that we're talking about success, because success, of course, is still the way to go.
Yes.
But just with ongoing conversations, we still, and I know you spoke about film quality changing and all that, but we still see a huge divide between Nigerian music as well as Nigerian film.
Yes.
Now, what are we doing to be able to bridge that gap? How can we literally place our stopgap so that we can turn things around for the Nigerian film?
So I think that the dynamics of music making or music business and film business or content creation, and by that I try not to just stay to film, but film is our discussion. The dynamics are very different.
Okay.
I think that whilst a lot of people, there are debates that in terms of the emergence of the music space, that Nollywood has been there before the music space. I think what the music industry kind of has ahead of Nollywood was the adoption of latest technology in the production and the mastering and the packaging and the ability to get corporate support. I think that's what music was able to latch onto very, very quickly. We've now gotten better with the compositions, and the writing with music. Nollywood, the place where Nollywood stalled was we didn't have enough formal revenue channels.
Yeah.
So for too long, we depended on VCDs and DVDs, which were often very pirated. And then AFVCA, and the African Magic and the cable TV came, but it was mainly TV. There was no real revenue source until the cinemas came, but cinemas can only cater for a little small segment.
Yeah.
All right. And then we didn't have the VOD platforms like we have now. So I think that a sector is only as, good as the amount of money it can attract that is then reinvested.
I get you.
And so that's where music has had the head start. But what is happening is music has now really helped film.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that are consuming the music want to know a lot more about the culture, want to know more about the people that make the music. I have to say, the music videos too have also kind of helped with a focus on what we can do in Nollywood. And your question is, what can we do more? I think that we've got to be braver and we've got to be bolder.
Take risks.
Yes, we've got to take risks. We have to take risks. We have to find out and build platforms that can help our content to generate revenue. So I think that it's the gap. I won't say it's getting closer, but we're moving in the right direction in terms of the Nollywood side. One of the things we need to also do more is embrace the success of music. So how do we infuse more of our local music into movie making, and how are we humble enough to learn what's going on in the music space. The music space in summary, or as I wrap up on this question, they were able to capitalize on the interest of diaspora. What are we doing on the interest of diaspora? Who wants to be connected to the culture? How are we taking films to them on a consistent basis that is also forming a culture? Where we love to see it in cinema, they love to come out for the premieres. How are we doing it consistently? How are we consistently feeding them with the quality that they want to see? I think that's what will then lead to the explosion that the film industry.
Very interesting. Again, mind-blowing, deep conversations. I have Moses Babatope here with me, and as you're speaking, I'm just thinking of the several things that can happen and can come out of this industry. And I know we're on that trajectory, so we will continue to do better.
Amen. Amen to that.
So I like how you mentioned funding. You didn't mention funding, but my mind went to funding when you mentioned corporates getting involved. So let's talk about funding. So we're together in South Africa. The creative aspect of the Afrexim Intra-African Trade Fair focused on funding. And even when we sat with a couple of other friends, you spoke about the fact that Afrexim needs to do more. And not just Afrexim, but even the corporates within Nigeria.
Correct.
So I was telling you about the fact that a company I'm associated with is also trying to do something in the space. Tell us about how funding is. How is it going?
Funding is still a big challenge, but it's definitely better than what it used to be. There is a lot more curiosity. There's a lot more, I would like to say, comfortable interest, not like intentional or like exciting interest. So comfortable interest, like, okay, we see what Netflix is doing, we see what Prime Video is doing, we see that a lot of people are more interested in the sector, we see all the headlines, we see what's going on social media, but we're not seeing people that like, what can we do that can be catalytic? If this thing is happening organically like this, what if we found $50 million, $70 million, $100 million? What can we be even more risk-loving for this sector that has become something like this?
We're
not finding that.
Can there be risks?
But they are for every other sectors. They take infrastructure. They give infrastructure. They have infrastructure investments that they know that will
you
not
never know
yield
whether they
anything
will
for
make
10 years, 12 years. We'll be talking about the refineries. How many banks have come together to do the refineries, and how long has it taken for that to happen? The inflationary pressure, the devaluation of the currency, all of that is inbuilt with their investments. But a lot of these guys don't see creativity as tangible enough. They don't see it as monetizable enough, and those are the concerns we have. But like I said, to give credit, people like Afrexim have stood up and are putting their money where their mouth is. There's genuine interest. Like you said, we met at the Canex and Intra-Africa Trade. The BOI, I must give them credit.
The BOI
they were at the forefront. It's just that it's not been as sustained, and they might need to revisit some of the business models, you know, or the models of funding. A number of private equity companies are beginning to look at either forming, you know, having entertainment desks or forming funds. Again, it's a lot of talk at the moment. We're hearing the International Finance Corporation are also very interested, and I believe one or two others are also looking into the market. The truth is, we have more people looking into the sector and actively engaging now than we had before. I also think that there's a new wave of crowdfunding that is going on, where a pool of people come together. That's coming on. So that is helpful. It's not where we want to be, but it's not where we were. If that makes sense.
So a lot more people are talking about it, which is good, but moving to action, even though slow, the conversations are happening.
Correct.
From boardrooms to, of course, panel sessions to workshops.
Correct.
We will be hopeful. I know I put on my business cap. Immediately you said, risk. And I know businesses sometimes can be very risk averse, even though they go for the big ticket items from refinery to infrastructure and the likes. I think when it comes to film, they're like, if I put my money, where exactly will my ROI be? Again, coming from my communication background, when I'm asking for money to run an advert, so what will we get in return? That happens to me internally. So I can imagine people investing for films. But just even moving from there, filmmakers, how do they protect themselves? How do they... Access is one, but how they protect themselves, because that's a lot of pressure. It's like taking it's not like, it's a loan because it's not a dash. So how do they protect themselves when they go to access this kind of finance and then they have produced the movie? Of course, you know, people are transient in nature. It's not like you produce the movie, they will immediately jump up and say they want to go. Or how do the filmmakers protect themselves from depression or all the other things that come with the stress of having to make your financials happen?
So I say to filmmakers, if there are a few things, where possible, please understand the kind of funding you are getting. So if it's debt, what kind of debt? Like what interest? Over what period? I always even counsel, because of the way the Nigerian banking system is, or the Nigerian, would I call it, money markets is, I would stay away from debt because of the pressure, and because of the fact that some of the production timelines sometimes might not be in your control. But if it's the kind of debt where you have a moratorium, you have enough spacing, you know, then it can be considered, especially when you might have a relationship with a distributor that is able to help you monetize the content quickly. So I say, please understand the kind of funding that you get before embarking on any production project. The second one is embedded in what I said, where have a relationship with the distributor to kind of cross-check the creative idea that you are looking to embark on. Is it something that has historically worked? And this is what we talk to a lot of filmmakers about. What have you done enough research? Have you done enough audience work? Have you done a lot of, discussions just to understand what works in the market? So that informs the kind of decisions that you make. That is so vital. And people are still very complacent. In fact, I feel people are arrogant when you just feel
I felt that coming.
Yes, when you feel like I'll just make something, they will like it.
They will. It's automatic. Let's put the rainbow and this and
the
that.
intellectual ones also make it look like
it's easy.
we are filmmakers. We are the custodians of trends and custodians of popular thinking and custodians of what people should like. We can kind of form their taste. And look, to an extent, that can be. To an extent, I don't know whether it's right. I can understand it. But generally, the audience should inform the direction you're going. Or, like I said, historical performance, like what made this work. Why did it work and all that kind of thing. Those are the kind of things you should be looking at. And I think in kind of like my final submission in terms of filmmakers being protected or doing their best to mitigate the risks is, for example, you might have an output deal with a streamer or a relationship with a streamer, it might be best to find out if they also have an appetite for your work. If you are one of the elite filmmakers that has a relationship with the streamer, you can put a pitch, what we call a pitch deck or pitch information together to gauge their interest. And based on their interest or their intent, then you can go out to the markets to go and raise money. Those would be the 3 ways. You know, like I said, 1, the type of funding, understanding it very well. 2, a relationship with a distributor, somebody in the ecosystem that can monetize. 3, a pre-arrangement with a streamer that can help, that can signal to you that there's interest here and they'll be ready to take up the content when it's created.
I just like that nugget, the 3-step nugget by Moses Babatope. Again, the wealth of knowledge you can't even hide it. You can see clearly you have been in the business for over 25 years. I'm correct.
20 years.
20. Okay. Yes. So over 20 years, he's not talking because, you know what, it feels good to say these things. He's been in the business. He has walked the walk and done the talk.
Yes.
And all this is information that will be beneficial to whoever is looking to go into the industry.
Absolutely.
And those that are even looking to invest in the industry. Now, I want to have you longer than this, so definitely you're coming on, but I will just close with this last question.
Yes.
With distribution, FilmOne being the largest distributor in the west of Africa, how are we, as it relates to distributing our movies even across? So having Nigerian movies going to the Ghana market and all the other West African countries and then having them come to us. How is that going? So like an inter-border type distribution.
I have to say that's a penetrative question. Really good question, because that's something that we stand for. We truly believe in Pan-Africanism. Truly believe in not just Nigeria standing out. We want Africa to thrive. We were limited by number of cinema screens, as you know. So therefore, there's not a lot we can take. We also see that our other colleagues and brothers from other countries are probably not as prolific as ourselves in making content in a consistent way, or in the format that is digestible or consumable by Nigeria, which is also the largest, consumer of content in Africa. But despite that, we have the relationships with cinema chains and distributors in East Africa, and we have in Southern Africa as well. As a matter of fact, we've released select films in those markets, and we've done vice versa, where South African films have been released in our territory, and we've tested out 1 or 2 East African films. What we are hoping would be a good market opener, or would just really, really like democratize things, would be a nice Pan-African story that gets characters from different parts of Africa. I think that to be, if we're able to tell that story in a very interesting, compelling way, without also falling risk of wanting to satisfy every region. It has to be done in a tasteful way, where you are really interested in characters from all of these places. I think it's achievable. It sounds like a concussion, but it looks like it can be done. I think that would then generate organic interest. You don't have to be worrying too much. Would it sell here? Would it sell there? I think that's something we can do. But as we speak, the Francophone territories, we've released films to them in the past. The East African territories we have, the Southern African territories we have. The prospects are very good, because all of those territories as well do not have cinemas. All of those territories as well do not have a lot of local VOD platforms. So there's opportunity for growth with the platforms infrastructure to show this content and to generate more revenues by doing so. As a business person, those are the opportunities I'm looking at. How can I create more platforms for people to access this content? Because people enjoy them. It's just that they don't have access. And that's why piracy is still a thing.
In fact, you have just, again, shared information that I'm like, wow. we are getting there, but there's still a lot to be done.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think the movie that came to mind was The CEO.
Okay.
CEO, which had,
yes.
But I can imagine some of the South African directors doing something with our locals and their locals. I get what you mean, and it will definitely be something beneficial for the continent, not just even Nigeria. And I like where our head is at. I'm hoping that we'll get there one day.
We shouldn't reinvent the wheel. Let's think about what made music work. The combination of Nigerians and Africans, Nigerians and East Africans, whether it's Diamond in East Africa from Tanzania, or whether it's the Amapiano beats that we're hearing now, that a lot of our guys have jumped on, or what Channel O did at the time. For our musicians, like there's no reinventing the wheel, and it became big. It was created organically in Africa, and all these guys are selling out arenas. So that formula is there.
FilmOne to be able to do this?
I'm looking for as many collaborators and as many people that truly believe, in that, because it's worked in fashion, in food, culinary arts, or even in the arts, in literature. It's working. We see it. To an extent in our politics, even though it's not for positive reasons, people that want to stay on to power and do that, we have a way of going around all of these things that is very similar
to each other.
So I think that as film, we have to just be braver, like I said, and take more risk.
In fact, having you here has just made my day.
Thank you.
Moses, I've had Moses Babatope, co-founder of West Africa's largest cinema chain, group executive of FilmHouse Cinema, as well as managing director of FilmOne Entertainment. What can we expect? 2023 is coming up. What can we expect?
I predict. Thank you, Fitzroy. I predict the 2023 that will be a record year for cinemas.
Okay.
I predict that.
Yeah.
I think that, particularly for us in West Africa.
Okay.
I predict that the boom we're seeing with streamers would not stop. I think you'll find that content value would go up a lot.
Okay.
I predict that we're getting closer, maybe not to the Oscars, but closer to a proper international recognition of one of our work.
Okay.
Yeah, from the continent. I believe that strongly. Either it will come organically or it will be a collaboration.
Awesome.
I predict that would happen. I think that this funding discussion would probably be a priority for a new government. A new government that sees a youthful population and sees the thriving creative sector. That would be a quick win for any government that is sensible and that knows that the society is not hard to please. Do one or two things that can really impact people, across board. That would happen. So those are my 4 areas where I think there's a cinema. I think there'll be a cinema reemergence. I think the streaming boom will continue. I think the funding issue will get a little better, and I see more government participation.
Again, 4 top tips from Moses Babatope on the deep dive. You can't even get it anywhere else. You guys recognize that I always come with the tea, and I bring the relevant people to talk about the tea. So yes, Moses has been my guest on the deep dive. I'm going to have you again. I'm looking forward to my tickets.
Okay, sure, definitely.
But I am definitely going to have you again to come talk some more about this funding.
Yes.
We need to crack it.
Yes.
We also need to talk more about the kind of structure that FilmOne is hoping to build in the industry.
Yes.
Because I feel, and that's just personally, that people need to understand how the business works.
Yes.
And if they have a model that they can go through,
yes,
then all the better for them.
Correct.
Yeah. So it has been the deep dive with Ifitiri. I've had Moses, like I said. You can catch us on all social media platforms, and remember to follow Explore Nollywood as well as Streamline Media for more information about the podcast. Thank you.